From using post-up moves more than some of today's entire NBA teams, to the Dream dominating the low block in an era of the most talented bigs, we gotta go over how Joel Embiid and Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon's footwork has allowed for them to dominate their opponents time and time again. By keeping their defenders guessing and using the elite fundamental footwork to position themselves to take better shots against almost anyone, these are some of the greatest, most agile big men the NBA has ever seen. It's no secret that the time of big men taking control of the game in the post is pretty much over. But that hasn't stopped Embiid from incorporating a lot of the Dream's moves and perfecting them to his own style of play. Whether it be maximizing his pivot foot to get unparalleled shot selection or utilizing the fadeaway perfectly after outmaneuvering his defender, Hakeem had the special ability to create space whenever, and most importantly, wherever he needed it. And Embiid has successfully added many of those moves even in today's NBA, where speed and the three are king. So no doubt you're going to want to strap in until the very end, because we're going to cover just how Embiid has rejuvenated post play, while Olajuwon was in a class of his own as a center even when surrounded by the best centers in history, and how the two are able to manipulate their opponents to get the best looks. Welcome to the masterclass of footwork for big men. There's no way you could talk about the best big men in the league without Embiid popping up in the conversation. Because if he isn't powering his way to the rack or putting up absurd defensive numbers, he's in the post shaking and baking other superstars and almost making them look silly. Where Embiid got the ability to do what he does shouldn't be a shock to anyone, because Joel has come out and openly said that he modeled much of his game after Hakeem. He even said that he watched footage of Olajuwon 6 days a week. And after watching hours upon hours of tape, Embiid has nearly perfected his mimicry of the Dream, all the way down to Olajuwon himself saying he sees a lot of himself in the superstar. That's quite the compliment, as Hakeem had another student who he spoke highly of other than Embiid, Kobe Bryant. Turns out you don't have to be a big man to have a big impact when you know how to use your feet in the paint. Kobe revolutionized modern ball by taking elements of the Dream and infusing it with more of a modern NBA play style, not to mention his ruthless Mamba mentality. Hakeem even said it himself that Kobe was his best student. In a 2015 interview with Sporting News, Olajuwon was quoted, "I've worked with a lot of players, but the one who really capitalized on it the most is Kobe Bryant." Embiid is pulling off what Bryant did, just in reverse. And as a big man, not only in the paint, but from the perimeter, which is mind-blowing. He first wanted to learn the kinetics and footwork of the most talented center near the rim. And who can blame him? Because Hakeem's extraordinary talent and footwork razzled and dazzled in the post for his entire career. He was able to average a double-double long before it was all the rage, with 21.8 points and 11.1 rebounds. Olajuwon wasn't just a great scorer or rebounder though. He was also an incredible two-way player and frequently got 2 or more steals per game on top of 4+ blocks. There were many times where he put legendary centers like Patrick Ewing, Shaquille O'Neal, and even Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on the back foot. In one of their epic battles in the playoffs, Hakeem even laid down 35 points against Kareem, who many consider the GOAT. A lot of why he was able to do that was because of his incredible footwork and his ability to create a shot in the post with his sneaky pivoting and lightning-fast reflexes. Not to mention his smooth-as-butter turnaround jump shot. Hakeem ended his career after winning 2 NBA titles, being the Finals MVP for both runs, and he was inducted to the Hall of Fame for all his efforts in 2008. If that wasn't enough, Hakeem won Defensive Player of the Year twice, was 9-time All-Defense, and landed on the All-NBA team 12 times. The game of today is a whole lot different than when Olajuwon played though, which is why it's almost unthinkable someone like Embiid came along when the league was quickly diverting from the type of play that these two superstars are known for. And the most interesting part? Joel didn't even want to play basketball in the first place. He didn't even want to play basketball until he was 15 years old. Embiid actually wanted to get into volleyball of all sports. After he finally discovered basketball and fell in love with it, he studied the old school ways of playing in the post while in Cameroon. As a whole, when the NBA started tracking more advanced analytics and stats in 2013, it was really obvious that post play had been on a dramatic decline. As a matter of fact, per possession, post-ups have declined by over 1/3 in the last decade, and faster-paced action and the three have almost completely taken over. But thanks to Embiid, the 76ers have reversed that trend all on their own. Because in the 2020 to 2021 season, Joel put up more post-ups by himself than 27 entire NBA franchises. The craziest part is just how efficient he is with that much volume. because he ranked first in posting up per 100 possessions. And on top of that, he was second in scoring efficiency for players that post up. Those are GOAT level metrics for anyone that operates so heavily in the paint, which is why he's in contention for the MVP year after year at the age of 29. Ever since he was cleared to play in the 2016 to 2017 season, after a foot injury kept him out of the league for his first 2 years, Joel has been steadily increasing his monster stat lines. In the 2022-23 season, he continued to improve on his skill set, averaging a double-double with 33.1 points, 10.2 rebounds, and 4.2 assists. Not to mention his defensive efforts are a big reason why the 76ers remain in contention, despite having some huge roster shakeups these last few seasons. With the modern NBA still leaning toward the three-pointer and high pace of play, Embiid has also adapted because his career three-point percentage is about 34%, making him a pretty good shooter for his position. Despite all that, Embiid's biggest strength has been his strength, footwork, and play around the rim. NBA legend Dirk Nowitzki even said that Embiid is a hybrid of Shaq and Hakeem, a fine mix of finesse and raw power. And when you need some finesse down low, there's none finer than Hakeem Olajuwon. His iconic dream shake is still being emulated in both the NBA and in street ball alike. Breaking it down a little bit, the entire premise of the move is to get some space from the defender and get a good shot at the basket. To do that though, you need to be able to pivot and change momentum quickly. So having superb footwork is downright a requirement to even attempt it, or the result would just be a travel or tripping over your own feet. The most popular variation of the dream shake is to pivot toward the hoop, then stop on a dime and reverse direction, and use the opposite foot to pivot into a fadeaway or hook. Another version is to jump back and land with both feet, so they can keep their options open to use either foot to pivot, then fake a drive toward the basket and go the other way. These moves let both Embiid and Hakeem confuse their opponent and take lightly contested or even uncontested shots, which leads to some pretty wild efficiency numbers. The kind of stat lines that Embiid can put up with these skills are sure to get him to the pinnacle someday. Because after improving his play so much over the past few years, the only thing left for Embiid is to get a championship. The biggest reason for Embiid being ringless up to this point is because he had no supporting cast at all for the last few seasons. As a matter of fact, it was almost a certainty that with their very weak bench, they were doomed if they were trying to make a deep run in the playoffs. But with the roster that he has now on the 76ers, which includes James Harden, it should no longer be an automatic loss if one of the two go down. If Embiid has any luck, the 76ers will continue to improve on getting him some help. But until they can take the next step and reach the finals, he might need a refresher on some of those Hakeem videos he binge watches 6 times a week. It is not up for debate that the Dream had some of the best footwork in the entire history of the league. But when it comes to modern NBA superstars, the crown he wore has passed squarely over to Embiid, and we most likely have yet to see what his true ceiling is. Nonetheless, Joel will undoubtedly go down with Hakeem as one of the best centers to ever play the game. And we're all just waiting to see just how many chips he can stack up by the end of his career.